Hello students, so far we have seen free vibration response of a single degree of freedom system, in which we considered that the mass block was attached to the wall using a spring and a damper. We also have considered a different damping mechanism, which is Coulomb's damping, in the previous class, and we have seen that for certain initial conditions, that is x0 and x dot 0, how exactly the response of mass will be like. Okay, now in this particular rather from this lecture onwards, what we are going to see is forced vibration response. So what we are going to consider is, along with these initial condition, these two initial conditions that we are specifying, we are also specifying externally applied force onto it, which is f of t. That force also varies with time. Okay, and to start with, we are going to consider that kind of variation which is harmonic in nature. Okay, so we are going to consider force of this form, f0 cosine omega t. You can obviously say that f0 sine omega t, or f1 cosine omega t plus f2 sine omega t, any of these forms. Okay, so we'll start with this one. Okay, so if this is what is the force applied onto this mass, then what would be the response of mass to this external forcing together with these two initial conditions which you have prescribed. Okay, so you know how exactly this force looks like, right? This force is harmonic in nature. It looks like this. This is the amplitude f0. Now if this is the force, what would be the displacement response? Okay, on x-axis you have t. So how exactly this x is going to evolve with time? Okay, so as of now we don't know how exactly this will look like. Okay, so we are going to derive this, that for this externally applied forcing which is of this nature, what would x look like? Okay, in order to do that, okay, so let me first of all arrive at the differential equation. So for that we'll be drawing the free body diagram of the mass. Okay, so free body diagram of the mass, if we draw, then we see there is one spring force and there is one damper force, and now along with these two forces there is one additional force which is f0 cosine omega t, which is that f of t, which is acting on this mass. And if you take care of that, then you will be writing mx double dot is equal to these three forces, which is minus kx minus cx dot plus f0 cosine omega t. You will be taking these two terms on this side, and you are going to get this equation, mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx equal to f0 cosine omega t. This is the differential equation for the problem under consideration, and we have two initial conditions specified, uh, that is at x at time t equal to 0 is x0, and x dot at time t equal to 0 is x dot 0. These are two initial conditions, and this is the differential equation. This differential equation, as we already have talked about in the previous class, is non-homogeneous in nature because it has got this term sitting over here which is not 0. Okay, so it changes its value as well as its sign as t progresses. Okay, so this side of the differential equation is non-zero, and hence this is non-homogeneous differential equation. And when we were solving Coulomb's equation, Coulomb's damping, that time we have seen how to kind of tackle such kind of differential equations which have got non-zero terms sitting over here, which are non-homogeneous equations. So what we do is we decompose x into two parts. One is xp, which is particular integral, and the other one is called as complementary solution, xc. While deriving xp, what we do is we completely disregard these initial conditions. We kind of forget that there are certain initial conditions. Okay, we don't even look at them, and we solve our differential equation without taking in any of these conditions into consideration. Just looking at this side and this side, we solve that differential equation, and then we arrive at this xc, which has got handled, two handles it will have to satisfy these two initial conditions. Okay, so xc along with xp satisfies these initial conditions. Okay, so we'll start with deriving xp. Okay, so our job right now is to find out xp for this loading, which is F0 cosine omega t. This is externally applied forcing on our mass. Okay. let's try to find out that. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to consider a form of xp which will be similar to this. Okay, so let me consider that as x1 cosine omega t plus x2 sine omega t. Okay, now if that is what is xp, then what would be x dot p? It will be minus omega x1, this will be sine omega t, then this will be plus omega x2 cosine omega t. One very important thing that you need to keep in mind is this omega is far different than omega n. This is no way the same one. Okay, omega it can take any value, one of which can be omega n obviously, but it can have any value, and we are going to see what happens to the response when omega is having certain values with respect to this omega n. Okay, how off omega is with respect to omega n, with that how exactly system's response changes, in what sense, we are going to have a look at it afterwards. Okay, but keep it in mind that omega can be anything, it need not be equal to omega n. Okay, so we have derived x dot p. Now x double dot of p will look something like this, minus omega square x1 cosine omega t minus omega square x2 sine omega t. Now what we'll be doing is we'll be plugging in these three values in this differential equation, and we are going to balance out two sides to find out values of x1 and x2. Okay, so if we put these values over there, then what we get is, let me write down that, then what we get is this, minus m omega square x1 cosine omega t minus m omega square x2 sine omega t minus cw x1 sine omega t plus cw x2 cos omega t plus k x1 cos omega t plus k x2 sine omega t. This entire stuff is equal to f0 cosine omega t plus, I'll write it down in this fashion, 0 sine omega t. Okay, so contribution of cos function is f0 and contribution of sine omega t function is 0. Okay, you can have some other weight associated with it, but we are considering 0 weight to start with for sine omega t. Okay, you could have given 0 weight to cos omega t and f0 would have been over here. That is also quite possible. Okay, but we are starting with this typical case. Okay, now if it is so, then what we are going to do is we are going to collect all those terms together which have got cosine terms in them to start with, and then we'll be clubbing all those terms which have got sine terms in them, and then balance out two sides. Okay, so if we do so, what we get is this. Okay, k minus m omega square x1 plus cw x2 times cosine omega t. Okay, these are three terms. One is k x1 omega t, other one is minus m omega square x1 cosine omega t, third one is c omega x2 cosine omega t. Now let's consider all those terms which have got sine in them. Okay, so those are minus cw x1 plus k minus m omega square into x2 times sine omega t is equal to f0 cosine omega t plus 0 sine omega t. Okay, now here onwards what will be, rather at this step, what we are going to do is we are going to weigh, or we are going to consider amplitude of cosine function on this side and amplitude of cosine function on this side. We are going to equate these two amplitudes. Similarly, we are going to equate amplitudes of sine function which is on this side and which is on this side. Okay, so if we equate the amplitude, these amplitudes of cosines and sines, then we get to see two equations, okay, which are k minus m omega square x1 plus c omega x2 is equal to f0 is first equation, and the second equation is like this: minus c omega x1 plus k minus m omega square x2 is equal to 0. This is equation number 2. Now let me from equation number 2, let me simplify that equation number 2 in this way. Okay, c omega x1 will become k minus m omega square x2, and hence I can write down x2 as c omega divided by k minus m omega square x1. Now if I put this value of x1 in equation number 1, then equation number 1 will become k minus m omega square x1 plus c square omega square divided by k minus m omega square x1 equal to f0, which will give me value of x1 as f0 times k minus m omega square divided by k minus m omega square square plus c square omega square. And if I put this value of x1 in this expression of x2, then I'll get x2 as f0 cw divided by c omega divided by k minus m omega square square plus c square omega square. Okay, so this is the expression of x1 and this is the expression of x2. So we have expressions of x1 and x2 with us, and hence we can construct xp, which is the particular integral. Okay, so particular integral for the equation under consideration will look something like this: x1 cosine omega t plus x2 sine omega t. Okay, where I can simplify this, I can write down this xp in this form as well. You already know that. Okay, we already have done this before. Okay, so I can write down xp as capital X times cosine omega t minus phi. So rather than having something into cosine omega t plus something into sine omega t, you can write down this entire stuff as x times cosine of omega t minus phi, where phi is the phase with which this particular function is lagging when compared with cosine. So cosine train is this, okay, and this function will be something like this. So this is the lag which is corresponding to this one. Okay, lag or lead, whatever comes out to be. Okay, value of phi, depending on, you can say that either it is leading or it is lagging. Okay, so let's try to find out what is x and phi based on the expressions of x1 and x2 that we have obtained. So how are we going to find out x? X will be nothing but square root of x1 square plus x2 square, okay, which will be equal to square root of the first term, the x1, which is f0 square times k minus m omega square divided by square of this big term, okay, which is k minus m omega square plus c square omega square. This is everything inside bracket and square of that bracket this is what is x1 square. Okay, now I am going to write down what is x2 square over here. Okay, that will be equal to f0 square times c square omega square divided by, again, square of something which is inside this bracket. And what is that something? It is the same stuff, k minus m omega square square plus c square omega square. Okay, so denominator is common, you can combine it and you can take it out of this under root sign. Similarly, f0 also you can take out common and out of this square root sign, and if you do so then you will get this term out, or maybe I'll write it in the next page. Okay, so what we are going to get is x0 will be equal to f0, that will come out. And let me not take the denominator out first of all, let me only make it common. Okay, so we have this denominator which is a big bracket square, and that bracket has got k minus m omega square square plus c square omega square. Okay, and what is there in the numerator? If you see to it, numerator will have this term plus this term. Okay, so which is k minus m omega square plus square, obviously it has got, plus c square omega square. Okay, if you compare numerator and denominator, you are going to see that it is the same bracket, square of which is appearing over here in the denominator. Okay, so numerator is square root of the denominator, or denominator is square of the numerator. Okay, so numerator will go and this power, one power from the denominator will go, and you will be left with this single bracket which is in the square root. So x will essentially look something like this, f0 divided by under root k minus m omega square square plus c square omega square. This is xp, obviously we are considering only particular integral. So this is this is amplitude of the particular integral, which we are writing down by capital X. Okay, so please ensure that this is capital X and not the small x. Okay, amplitude of the particular integral. Okay, so let me ensure that it looks different. Okay, so this is what is this. Okay, and what will be phi? Phi will be equal to tan inverse of, you can find out phi by comparing these two, x1 and x2. You have these two things, take x2 by x1 and tan inverse of that. If you do so, then you are going to get this one, cw divided by k minus m omega square. So let me check if we are right. Yes, that's how phi will look like. Okay, so we have obtained xp. What does it mean? It's fairly complex, right? So however, we'll be making it pretty simple. It won't look that complex afterwards to you. You'll be able to predict how exactly it is going to behave. Okay, so this is what is force, which is a cosine train. Amplitude is f0, right? Now you are going to see a displacement, that part of the displacement which is particular integral xp I am plotting. Okay, we will have a look at xc afterwards. Okay, and then finally we are going to see how exactly x will look like. Okay, so xp, how exactly that is going to look like. Okay, so xp will be something like this. It will also be a cosine train, but it will be shifted slightly along time axis because we have phi angle. Okay, so there is a slight shift over here, right? The slight shift you are seeing over here, which is because of that phi angle. Okay, and amplitude will also be different. This amplitude won't be equal to f0, but it will be equal to f0 divided by that big bracket in under the square root term over here. Okay, so which is this expression, this expression. So this is what is the amplitude. This capital X is the amplitude. So this is capital X. Okay, so it is essentially the cosine train, but a shifted cosine train with truncated amplitude, because something else is sitting over here, right? So hence amplitude is truncated. Now let's try to express that X even in the better fashion. Okay, so what X right now we have obtained? We have obtained it in this way. Okay, c square omega square is over here. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll divide numerator and denominator by k. Okay, so we have this thing sitting over here. What is the meaning of it? We are going to see very soon. But as of now, let me write it that way only. Capital X is equal to f0 by k divided by this term. Okay, so this term has got k over here. So k is dividing this entire term. This term is inside the square root. So if you take this denominator inside the square root, then it will have square term appearing over here, and you are going to say it this way: k minus m omega square divided by k square plus c square omega square divided by k square. Okay, so what is this first expression? This is k minus m omega square divided by k square, which means that 1 minus m omega square by k square. However, here square over here, I'm so sorry. So it will be k inside. Okay, so 1 minus m omega square by k square of that, which means that it is equal to 1 minus omega square divided by omega n square, because you know that k by m is nothing but omega n square, which is circular natural frequency of the system under consideration. This is natural frequency, and this is the frequency of forcing. So now how of omega is with respect to omega n is coming into the picture, right? So this is the ratio of frequency of the forcing to the circular natural frequency of the system, which is coming and appearing over here in the first term. Okay, so 1 minus omega square by omega n square is what is the first term. Now let's try to see what is the second term. Okay, second term is what? C square omega square by k square. Now you know what is CC is. We already have expressed C in terms of CC as xi times CC, and CC is what? 2m omega n. Okay, if you divide by k to this C, then you will be dividing this side as well by k, and m by k is what? Omega n square. Okay, so you have omega n in the numerator, omega n square in the denominator, hence c by k will be 2 m won't be there, 2 xi divided by omega n. This is what is the expression of c by k, 2 xi omega n. So what is c square by k square? It will be 4 xi square by omega n square. Okay, so c square omega square by omega n square will be equal to 4 xi square omega square by omega n square. Okay, so we have derived the second, this is what is the second term which we have derived. This is what is the first term we have derived in terms of omega and omega n. Okay, so essentially I'll be writing down this amplitude x as f0 by k divided by under root 1 minus omega by omega n square, that's omega square by omega n square plus 4 xi square omega square divided by omega n square, right? So this is what is the expression of x. Similarly, we can write down expression of phi in terms of omega n and xi. So expression of phi is what? Tan inverse of c omega by under root, there is not under root term over here, it's k minus m omega square. I'll again be taking k common from this. Okay, and I'll be writing it in this fashion: c by k into omega by 1 minus m omega square by k. Okay. C by k we already have derived, that is 2 psi omega n. You have omega over here, and this term is nothing but 1 minus m by k is omega n square, and hence it is omega square by omega n square, and therefore phi will look something like this: tan inverse of 2 psi omega by omega n divided by 1 minus omega square by omega n square. This is what is the expression of phi, and this is what is the expression of this is what is the expression of x. This is the expression of phi, this is what is the expression of x, and hence capital X, and hence xp you have found out, which is capital X cosine of omega t minus phi. You know the expression for x, you know the expression for phi. Okay, and you might have appreciated that there are no initial conditions sitting over here because we have completely disregarded them. We haven't even considered them. Only system parameters are coming and sitting over here along with omega. So what x depends on? X depends on what is F0, that is what is the amplitude of forcing. What is frequency of forcing, which is omega. It also depends on what is the natural frequency of the system. It depends on what is xi, which is damping ratio that we are considering, and it also depends on k. Isn't it pretty weird? It depends on k alone over here. Okay, we are going to see what is going to happen to it very soon. Okay, maybe in the next class, but as of now what we are going to say over here is that we have derived the expression of xp. Then we know what xc will look like. What is xc? xc is complementary solution. What is complementary solution? Complementary solution is that solution which disregards homogeneous, non-homogeneous part of the differential equation, and hence it will be the solution of this system, right? And there will be certain initial conditions which we are going to satisfy afterwards. So it is the solution of this differential equation. Now you already know that depending on xi, solution of this differential equation can be categorized into three ways. You have expressions for all those three values of xi, types of values of xi: xi smaller than 1, xi equal to 1, and xi greater than 1. So depending on whether xi smaller than 1 is equal to 1 or greater than 1, you have to pick the appropriate expression of xc. So what you will be doing is you will be picking up appropriate expression of xc from the three options that you have. So what are those three options? The first option is xi smaller than 1. The second option is this, and third option is this. So all these three of them have got two unknown coefficients in them, and those unknown coefficients we are going to match with initial conditions. I mean we are going to solve them for those initial conditions in light of xp. Okay, so we are going to stop over here for this time, and we'll be invoking this xp once again in the next session. Okay, thank you, bye.